She's responsible for the day-to-day operations at SpaceX. She joined in 2002 as Vice President of Business Development. She now represents and works with them. They have over $5 billion in revenue. Prior to that, she spent 10 years at Aerospace Corporation. I love this fascinating background. She was promoted to chief engineer for a satellite program and worked her way up. And now she is working on all sorts of projects, including space policy for NASA for their future investment in space transportation. She was at the Makers Conference a couple of days ago, and I was watching the Twitter stream as she spoke. Tons of tweets were coming out. So today, if you don't know our hashtag, it is #W2SF14. I want you guys to tweet. I want you to show your love and your support. And I want to welcome to the stage a warm, big applause for Gwynne Shotwell. Yay! It's an honor. Yeah, did I get all those facts right? Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, it's really a pleasure to speak to you guys today. I was told to address, what is it like running a space startup? And I thought what I'd do is give a little bit of background on the company, load you with videos, because frankly, that's the most important element of any talk, I think. Not talk so much about myself. I think there was a little bit, can you give your background? But she did such a fabulous job talking about how I got into engineering, and she was 100% accurate. I just did a shoot with BCBG, and they said, well, you actually got into engineering because of fashion. I was like, I guess I did, actually. That female engineer that sat on that panel for Society of Women Engineers event basically demonstrated that engineering was accessible to women. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And it definitely changed the course of my life. So if you have questions, I think there's time after my talk to address any questions. So I'm going to talk about SpaceX. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the history, how we got to where we are, and where we're going in the future. First video, this is just a background video on SpaceX, just to give you a little bit of a sense before I start talking. If I could dance, I would do a little dance for you. Fill the gap. What you're looking at here actually is the factory as you walk out from the engineering desk cube area, known as offices, out towards the manufacturing line. That golden kind of orb that you see there is the Dragon capsule that we sent to space in December of 2010. It was the only time a private company actually put an object in orbit and successfully re-entered it. Countries have done it, but this was the first time that a company had. Over on that right, the kind of high-tech area, that's our mission control. We talked to the Dragon spacecraft there. We launched Falcon 9 from there as a backup, and we talked to Houston Mission Control from there as well. It's really a fabulous place. Can't get it? Yeah, I think we have to move on. We've got to go. All right. Are we going to, is that for all the videos? Oh, cool. Great. So what is SpaceX? SpaceX was this little itty-bitty company. I was the 7th employee in 2002. We're now at about 3,300 folks with about 600 contractors, so we're almost at 4,000. It doesn't feel tiny to me because you deal with the day-to-day issues like enough potties for people, parking, everybody bitches about that kind of stuff. But we were founded with one purpose, and I think it's one of the reasons why we were successful, to build the most reliable space transportation systems ever, with the ultimate goal to take people to low Earth orbit and beyond to someplace like Mars. Our factory is in Hawthorne, California, which is about 5 miles east of LAX. If you're in the area, send me an email, and maybe if we could get a group together, I'll do a little tour so you can watch rockets being built. Basically, hunks of metal, that's the super technical term. Hunks of metal drive in, and rocket stages drive out to our test site, and our launch site is pretty extraordinary. So we have 2 launch sites, one at Vandenberg Air Force Base, one at Cape Canaveral, Florida. We're building more and more because basically what we're trying to do is turn the space business into something that mimics the aircraft industry. You don't have one runway, you don't have one port or gate. So we'll be building a lot of those. Currently, that is kind of a choke point for us as we look forward into the future. So what have been some of the keys to our success? I think there's 3 fundamental elements. From the beginning, we ensured that we were not targeting one particular market. So we've captured NASA business with taking cargo to the International Space Station. We do have a little bit of DoD business. That's been the hardest pull for us. That's the longest time to sail in the history, I think, of anything. But we've got international commercial business, domestic commercial satellite launch business, as well as international government business. So, we've got a very robust business base, over $5 billion, and I think that's really important. It's important to your employees. You want to make sure that you're going to survive dips in various sectors. I entered the aerospace industry in the 80s, and it was plagued with boom time, crush time. You'd have 30,000 people at a company get laid off in a year. And it's no way to motivate anybody. So that was really important to us. I think the second feature that has made us successful is we've tried to maintain that startup feel. The aerospace industry is one of the most constipated on the planet, frankly. The times to deploy these systems that are supposed to help people's lives become better, 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. Some people retire after 20 years. I can't imagine working on one project for my entire career. So very flat hierarchy, best idea wins. We've got design decisions that interns have made. I'm not saying Elon doesn't contribute. He contributes in a huge way, but he's not the only one that contributes on the technical side. And then the third key to our success is we've had no strategic partnerships with any supplier. We bid everything. And if it looks like there is only one supplier, we'll figure out how to build it ourselves, because the aerospace industry has suffered from shortfalls and dips and changes. And if you are dependent on a supplier who's basically going out of business, you're screwed. And I didn't want to have my employees or my customers deal with that. So those are the 3 key things I think that have made us successful. Oh, yes, and vertical integration. So we build our wire harnesses, we write our own software, flight and ground, we build our tanks, we build our engines. So we do it all. Keeps the employees really happy too. Just quickly, what are we looking at? Left, that's a satellite that's just demonstrating the business. Middle is a rocket engine firing in Central Texas. Far right is the Dragon capsule. That's the spaceship that launches on a Falcon 9, goes to International Space Station. Bottom left, you see a bunch of tanks being built. That's a rocket stage. Middle, rocket launch. Hopefully you'll see a video of that. Far right is a reusability project, trying to get more like aircraft operations. Right now, you throw rockets away, or they throw themselves away after use. So now let's get into the history. 2002, we were founded. We were in a giant 30,000 square foot building in El Segundo, California. Now we have 1.5 million or 1.8 feet, or 1,000,008 square feet, and we're like jammed in. We did not have the environmental permits to do any rocket engine testing, so we hired a company out in Mojave to do our initial gas generator testing. And we ended the year with 14 employees, so this is 2002. I'm not going to go through every year, just kind of the high and low to give you guys a sense. 2006, so we started in 2002. 2006, we finally got Falcon 1, which was our first product off the ground. Barely off the ground. We went about a mile high, came back. We had an engine fire in the back end, you see in the middle photo there. Basically caused the pneumatics, burned through the lines, caused the pneumatics to shut, and the engines went down. Got a video of that, we don't release it. It was a little Monty Python-ish. So that was the tough news. However, I think humans and certainly companies learn from failures. You don't actually learn from successes, and we grew up overnight on that March day in 2006. Far right, which was like the coolest, one of the coolest moments at SpaceX. It was late in 2006. We had put in an offer to NASA to work with them to build a much larger rocket. This is Falcon 1. It would take about 1,000 pounds to orbit. We were going to work on something that would take 25,000 pounds to orbit and build a spaceship that would go to the International Space Station. We were totally the underdog in this, and we won. It was a $278 million contract or agreement. It was an agreement, a partnership. And it was a great moment for the company. We ended the year with 224 employees. So 14 in 2002, 224 in 2006. 2008, we finally got Falcon 1 to orbit. 3 tries, Didn't get there. The fourth try was great, only 7 weeks after the third issue that we had. And then the final flight of Falcon 1 was in 2009. In addition, another big year on the sales side. So we had demonstrated enough progress with NASA on the development of Falcon 9 and Dragon that they entrusted us with a $1.6 billion contract to actually go ahead and operate this system for services. And we actually we initiated services in 2012. So it's kind of a long time from contract to flight in this industry. We're trying to make it shorter. Ended the year 2008 with 618 employees. 2010, great year. So Falcon 1 was a little rocket. You could almost hug it. Falcon 9 is a giant rocket. Right now it's at about 1.5 million pounds of thrust. That's a lot of energy flaming on the deck. So we got Falcon 9 to orbit, which is fundamentally the rocket that we needed to hit the target in the market that we needed to. And we flew Dragon. So we've got Falcon 9 to orbit successfully in June and flew Dragon for the first time, a historic event, again, a private company bringing a spacecraft back from orbit in December. So that was a great year. 1,200 employees. 2012, another extraordinary year. 2011 was a bad year. We were a launch company. We didn't launch, but we're basically turning that Dragon from just an orbiting and reentry capsule or satellite into one that was safety certified to berth or attach to the International Space Station. So we got to Space Station twice, in May and October of that year, and we ended the year with 2,200 employees. Fundamentally, this demonstration kind of sealed our purpose. I'm not saying that our detractors still won't say nasty things about them. That's probably the best thing to know as an entrepreneur. Screw them. Yeah, they'll still be nasty and they'll get personal, but it doesn't matter. We demonstrated our technical chops this year, and it was such a relief for the company. 2013, we actually upgraded the Falcon 9 rocket. Never quite perfect. You gotta tweak it. So we upgraded it, about a 50% increase in performance and thrust. Now I'm trying to get to the next slide, which is also a video of a flight that we had with the new Falcon 9 rocket. We gonna get there? It's not moving. Some of these videos are giant. I mean, it's like a 200 megabyte file. I was trying to download it this morning. 10, 9, 8, and your stomach is going, Yay! Okay, that's the slide and the video. Yay! Oh, the music is all right. This is a vehicle rolling out our hangar at Vandenberg.
All engines children for flight.
Vehicles in auto idle.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have liftoff of the Falcon 9. Falcon 9 has cleared the towers.
First stage propellant utilization active.
Power system is nominal and we have a good telemetry lock. Stage 7 commanded.
And that condition confirmed. Second stage propellant utilization active.
Fairing set commanded. Avionics power system is nominal and we continue to have a good telemetry lock.
Stage 2 propulsion also nominal.
Payload deploy commanded.
Yay. Launches are really nerve-wracking, but they're also just great when they work. So what do we have in front of us? We are upgrading the Dragon capsule to carry crew. I don't know if you know it, but the Russians and the Chinese are the only countries that can take astronauts into space. NASA hires the Russians currently to take our astronauts into space. We're trying to change that, and so that, I mean, why not have domestic companies taking your astronauts into space? But we have, 50 or so missions to fly, both to the International Space Station as well as our commercial and international customers. We've got a lot going on. Hopefully we'll fly about 10 times this year, 20 in 2015, and then as many as we can sell there and beyond. Talked a little bit about crew. We are working and upgrading the Dragon to carry crew. Right now it's been certified to be habitable by crew, but not launched with people. So we're working closely with NASA. We'll find out whether it's us, Boeing, or Sierra Nevada in the September timeframe of this year, who is going to be the one company that ends up taking it all the way. Hopefully it's us. Falcon Heavy. The combination of the Falcon 9, that single core rocket that you see, and this triple core that you see here, will cover every mission that we could possibly imagine currently, commercially. We're going to need a much bigger system to take astronauts beyond low Earth orbit to the moon or Mars. But this will cover every market that we can conceive of right now, besides crew to outer planets. This will be the largest vehicle flying. Once we're flying it, it should be about a year or so, and it's exceeded only in size by the Saturn V moon rocket, for those of you that are old enough to remember. I am. Rapid reuse. So I mentioned earlier that rockets throw themselves away. They basically burn up after the mission. And you can imagine if you were flying to New York City on an airplane that was only going to be used once, there wouldn't be very many people flying. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're held back so dramatically in the aerospace industry. It's critically important to bring your hardware back after a mission. You want to see how it fared. Are you developing cracks in the structure? Does your engine look good? You want to put people on these systems eventually. You want to make sure you know exactly what it looks like after the flight. And right now, you're kind of in a haze, in a blind. So what we're doing is we're developing the technology to allow the first stage initially, that bottom part, the biggest part of the rocket, to come back basically on a suborbital trajectory after it drops off the second stage. So we've been doing testing in Central Texas, and I have a video. This is not a great video because we were criticized. They thought that this was fake. So this is basically a 15-story building lifting off its foundation. We don't cut away because they thought we were cheating. It went higher than we expected, so it leaves the screen. You actually see the Hexa camera, the hexacopter with the camera on it on the right. So we went up a couple thousand feet, hovered, we're coming back. Again, this is a building taking off and landing on a dime. That is so insane. We've got some great videos on YouTube if you look up Grasshopper. That test rig we called Grasshopper. We're moving. So basically what that was to test the precision landing. You got to get off the deck before you can test the landing. So we're moving this test. We're doing a little bit more testing in Texas, but we can't go as high as we want. So we test the near ground regime. We're going to test up through hypersonic in New Mexico. And then hopefully this year we will actually bring a stage back from its mission and land it in Cape Canaveral, actually. The Air Force seems to be excited about this incomer. So where do we go? You know, we've basically dominated on the smallish commercial satellite side with Falcon 9. When we roll out Falcon Heavy, we will own the market because our price point is less even than the Chinese commercial system. So what do we do after that? Our plan is to build a much bigger system that will carry people to settle Mars. Any questions? Is there protocol?
We are going to do a little bit of questions. If you want to sit with me for a
Oh,
couple
sure.
of minutes.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for that,
Of
everyone.
course.
Big round of applause. I can't see the hands up. I did see one here. The gentleman in the actually.
The gentleman. I mean, how many are you?
Yeah. Okay. I actually not seeing right. So any other questions? Got one question here in the front.
So obviously you've been a key leader in the company through this time of phenomenal growth. I was interested in what have you had to think about on this journey about what particular skills do you have and how to decide which things you shouldn't do or shouldn't lead and how to find other people as the company grows and decide what functions they should perform versus what you're driving?
Actually, that's a really good question. You know, I think I'm a salesperson. I'm an engineer, but every day is a sales day for me, even if I'm not clicking deals. You have to sell your concept. You have to sell someone else got the promotion to another employee whom you dearly love and don't want to leave. So that's one of my skills, is I'm a salesperson running the gamut. I also consider myself a people engineer. One of the most risky elements of designing any system is the interface between an engineer and another engineer, or one engineering team and another engineering team. And I see those connections, and I can tell when something's going to fall through the cracks. So those two things, the way Elon and I, by the way, I have a boss, Elon Musk. I don't know if you know him.
How is it to work with him, by the way?
I love working for Elon. He's funny. He's really funny, actually. I learned from him, like, interesting things all the time, and he, without saying that much, at least to me, he makes me do extraordinary work. Like, you don't want to disappoint the man. So I love working for Elon, always have.
How about another question? Don't be shy. I see it's hard to see.
I know it's hard
under
to
the lights,
see.
but about halfway back, and you're waving your hand
Yeah.
like this, and it looks like you might have bangs. Or so stand on up.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It was a great talk. I really enjoyed the video, which was fantastic. As a woman in a typically male-dominated industry, I'd be interested to know what kind of challenges you might have faced and what that was like and how you really dealt with it. I'd be interested to know.
So I don't know whether I've just been super ignorant or clueless, but I've rarely felt disrespected or felt like the rest of the folks that I'm working with didn't trust me to execute. There was one example, the only time that I know that I was discriminated against, I was in high school and I was applying for an internship. It was it was at college, sorry, after freshman year of college, HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. And I sent my resume. It was a local kind of green building company, and I won the internship until the phone screen. And my boss called, and he said, no, I need to speak with Gwynne. I was like, you got Gwynne, it's me. And he paused on the phone, and he said, well, you're a girl. Like, am I? Yes, of course I'm a girl. He said, well, there'd be heavy lifting involved. And I said, I'm an athlete. I could crush any intern you select. And he just basically said, no way, you don't get the job. Like, screw you, dude.
Yeah.
What an idiot, right? Yeah. So whatever, that was the only example, and I was, 18, where I knew that I was discriminated against. Sometimes you walk in a room and people expect different things out of you, especially with blonde hair, actually, but it's not natural. It's a natural function of aging or marrying someone from Texas. I think sometimes people, before they know me, they doubt a little bit, but they never say anything. And you just prove them wrong.
How about one thing that I read about you is that when you're hiring talent, that you actually been bringing a lot of talent in from overseas because you've been having a hard time getting engineers here. That Mini Cooper, did they put a block on all the emails coming from your company?
They did.
Tell us a little bit more about getting talent and recruiting female talent and what that's been like.
Yeah, so there is a huge gap right now in the amount of female engineering talent. It's not 50%. Only now are we starting to see at the best engineering schools females graduate at the 50% level with engineering or technical backgrounds. I was one of 3 mechanical engineers at Northwestern out of 36, so less than 10%. Our population is about 14% female engineers. It reflects the population of female engineers, but we're really trying to promote getting more women through the process at universities so that there's a big field to select from. It's actually one of my personal passions.
Another question from the audience. We have a couple of minutes left. Right here in the front.
Hi. You mentioned that you were an athlete. How important was it for you to succeed and be strong in a man's world, like your background as an athlete?
I'm going to repeat the question since you didn't have a mic. For the people in the back, the question was, how important was it for you to be strong and to succeed as an athlete to help you compete in your current position?
I think athletics are extraordinarily helpful for kids growing up, especially team athletics. You feel good physically, but you also learn how to behave on a team and work as a team and succeed as a team. If you lose as a team, I don't know how much, how great the experience is, but I still think it's important. I was tall as I'm actually 5'10" or 11 in heels, but I was 5'6", starting in like 6th grade, so I was kind of a monster. And then I never grew. So I started out as a forward, and then by the time I was a freshman in high school, I hadn't grown, so they put me at guard, and I wasn't quite quick enough. Still had a great vertical jump, which is why I made the varsity basketball team. But I think it's really important. I think physically you need to feel good if you're going to go out and conquer the world, and I think the team element is key as well. Did that answer your question?
This is going to be a good segue for our next session, which has to do with yoga. So I'm glad you're
love
talking
yoga.
about fitness. We have a question over here.
Yeah, hi, I really liked your talk. It was great. We're connecting experts like you with middle school kids. And I'm wondering how your company or you or maybe women, minorities actually connect with schools on the lower end, if you will, because everything you showed, I have a son, but the girls and boys in my son's 5th grade class would love to see it, and the girls in particular would love to see you. So what does your company do to connect with kids to when they first start to think realistically about these things, which tends to be like middle school?
Yeah, so there's no question that the majority of the SpaceX outreach is at the university level. We have an incredible intern program. We bring in 300 to 400 interns every year. However, there are a number of initiatives at the company that address younger students. As a matter of fact, SpaceX is in a community called Hawthorne. It's not a great community. The poverty level is pretty high. So what we've done is we did a big outreach, and we planted, or we had these beautifully designed gardens go into 6 or 8 local schools to teach kids about healthy food, as well as the biology of growing plants. And then we also connected with a number of middle schools to have them come in after school and help them with their homework. So those are some specific things. We have a grassroots effort. We've got, our employees are so extraordinary. They work their asses off 6-7 days a week, and they still want to go out and establish rocket clubs in the community. So you'll see rockets, little model rockets going off in the community because my team is out there working with students. So it's pretty grassroots. As a matter of fact, I get asked this question a lot because I do promote STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. For the it's for anybody, of course, but I'm always for the underdog. Whether that's a little girl who is too shy to go into engineering, a minority student who doesn't believe in themselves, or even that shy little boy who just gets beat up. I'm there for those kids. So I think what I'm going to do is establish a website to pull. There's tens of thousands of grassroots organizations across the country that are trying to do interesting things. I haven't yet supported outwardly, other than Goldie Blocks. By the way, I love that company. I haven't outwardly supported because I haven't had the time yet to view the content of what they're driving. But I think I'm going to have to start spending some time because I do talks like this, and people are so engaged, and they want to go help, and I don't have a lot of direction for them, other than, so this beer story, I was flying to Washington, D.C., and on a United Airlines magazine.
Not Virgin America? You were
I'm
on Virgin
sorry,
America?
no. No, I'm a bazillion miler on United. It's hard to leave it. I read a little factoid that Americans spend $100 billion a year on beer. And just because of my interest in the field, I knew that education is funded, I mean, I'm not talking about grand education, but STEM education is funded at about that level. Certainly in California, the state won't tell you how much they're spending on STEM. They'll tell you overall, but not on STEM. So I kind of did some crayon math and came up with Californians spend about $11 billion a year on beer, and we spend about $10 billion a year on science, technology, engineering, and math, publicly. Not beer and peanuts, not beer and pizza, not beer and wine, just beer. And I think that says something as a society, that it's okay to spend that kind of money on beer, and we're not like screaming about this in our schools. I'm a wine drinker. I have nothing against beer. I think it's nasty tasting, but
Crazy.
yeah, it's
Well,
insane.
I want to thank you so much. We have a gift for you that I want to make sure you get. If someone could bring up the gift. And then I have one closing. There was a quote that I believe it's an Elon quote that you have used and said before, and it was, if you're not looking towards the future, you're going to get left behind. And thank you for the gift. I guess in closing, a lot of our audience, they're either founders or starting something up. Any advice for them as they look towards the future?
Actually, a couple of pieces of advice, and I mentioned one of them. You will have detractors. Don't pay any attention to them. I mean, maybe if there's a tiny bit of truth, go fix it. But in general, don't pay attention. And you'll find that some of the detractors will actually get very personal, and it's painful, certainly painful for women to see that in press. But don't pay any attention to it. Advice one. Advice two, you can't control whether you are the smartest person in the room, but you can certainly control whether you're the most prepared. And three, if every year you're not getting better, you personally, your company, you're probably getting worse because things don't tend to stay static. So that's something else to think about.
Great. Thank you so much. Big round of applause. It's an honor. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.